Thanks for staying with us here on TVC Breakfast. It's not time for us to look at what the papers are reporting. First, we have a peek through. The Nation newspaper is the first. Electricity subsidy payment. Federal government to share costs with states, councils. The Punch newspaper, big money, small impact. Governors face fire over 9 trillion naira FAAC, that's FAC windfall. Federal allocations leap 37% per subsidy. Spotlight on state spendings. NLC economists, opposition parties react. The Platform Times. Federal government's bags 653 billion naira as states. Local governments get 1.22 trillion naira combined in 1 month. That's according to FARC. And the Nigerian Tribune. How I acquired my properties. That's according to former Attorney General Abubakar Malami, asks courts to set aside interim forfeiture order. The Blueprint newspaper, how I acquired 212.8 billion naira seized assets with 15 billion naira legitimate earnings. That's according to Malami. List streams of income, ESTA codes, profits from businesses, others including severance packages. Urges courts to quash interim forfeiture of 57 property. And this Nigeria, Yelwata Massacre, court remands suspected terrorists. Defendants plead not guilty to 57-count amended charge bordering on alleged terrorism offenses. The Nigerian News Direct, contract cycle, how instability in regulation, institutional leadership threatens success of presidential directive. That's according to Patton. Ondo at 50, leaders applaud rapid transformation under Aiyedatiwa. Hail government for people-oriented policies, infrastructure development, inclusive governance. Observer Times, Benue PDP submits to APC ahead of 2027 political alliance. Ex-AGF Aondoaka says deal is a partnership to ensure good leadership. Interesting stuff. And Daily Trust, billions lost at Kano Commodity Hub. And last but not least is the Sport Alive international friendly matches. Germany, England, Portugal list Nigeria as build up plans for 2026 World Cup. All right, then let's get out to brass tacks by speaking with my colleague Olamide, Ria, and indeed our in-house analyst be able to show me. We'll have to do this very fast because of our time. And Olamide, I'll start off with you. The Nation newspaper, electricity subsidy payment, federal government to share costs with states. Council, so the federal government is saying, see, enough of all these, myself alone, biting off much more than I can chew. So we just have to share it along. The federal government takes certain amounts, the states and the local government. Since the local governments are now receiving their allocations directly, most of the local governments precisely, you feel that's the way to go? Because at the end of the day, we want to have stable electricity. Absolutely. This signals a sharing of fiscal responsibility by the federal government. But the question is very, very simple. Do states have the shock absorbers to bear this cost and this burden? Absolutely.
So for me, I'll say it's not even about sharing it. It's about the longevity of this particular thing. Because oftentimes we start something that we cannot continue. You know, how are we sure that these states can finance this? It's going to put a lot of burdens on the state. It's actually a good plan, but how well can it be implemented? How well can it happen? That's right. For Nigerians, anything that will give us steady electricity, that's what we're in for. But even the same subsidy we're talking about, we know that the government is taking some of the bills from we citizens. But at the end of the day, we still do not see this light. And that has been the complaint, of citizens that, okay, you're subsidizing it for us, but we're not seeing the light. It's not better we are paying the right money and we're getting to see light. So I think that is something they really need to look at. It's not just about making statements. It's about making sure that these statements can stand the test of time. Someone was telling me yesterday that some states cannot do it. The pressure is going to be so much on them. So what's going to happen to those states? If
states are not viable, then why are they called states? If you look at some of the states that are already positioning themselves for this, Lagos, more than 18 of them, Edo, Delta and Kaduna are already operating their own regulatory agencies or in the process of doing so, allowing them to manage their own electricity markets, and now a portion of the subsidy burden.
Yeah, absolutely. If you look at the energy sector, you will realize that the federal government has actually liberalized that sector. So anybody can come in. If you have your money, you can generate your electricity and also distribute it. Many state governments, including Ogun, Ondo, Lagos, Edo, Kaduna, and some others, have actually set up their own regulatory agencies. So therefore, the cost of subsidy on electricity supply to those states should actually be borne, by partly by those state governments, because some of these issues are legacy issues. You know, it's all about cost-reflective tariff and all that. And many Nigerians do not want to pay more than what they are paying currently. Even some are finding it, particularly
because most
those
of them are not even seeing the electricity, actually.
Yeah, but if you look at the issue of prepaid meters, so you only pay for what you have used. So
But
that's
how many
the
people
counter-argument
actually
to
have
that.
prepaid meters as well? This
Well,
is a
not
long
everybody.
conversation.
Absolutely.
That we'll go
Not
over
everybody.
again.
So
it's
People
a
are
long-
still crying for prepaid meters that have not even gotten it yet.
Absolutely.
So we also need to look at that. The bills that they bring now is the bills that they share, you know, in the house.
Yeah.
It's actually a pain point for you, especially, you know. All right, then let's move on. Olamide, so let's look at the Punch newspaper as well as the platform Times. Ria, I'll come with you with the Nigerian Tribune. So if you look at this, Olamide, we'll see the Punch saying big money, small impact. Governors face fire overnight trillion naira FAC windfall. The same thing with the platform Times. Federal government bags 653 billion naira as states. Local governments get 1.22 trillion naira combined in 1 month. So we've made a whole lot of money. We've made a kill because the Federation Account Allocation Committee distributed that 1.966 trillion naira in revenue generated during December 2025. If you ask Nigerians, talk to us about the Nigerian budget. They can read out the federal government's budget offhand. Talk to us about the states. They do not know. Even local governments, what are their plans, their budget, appropriation? They do not know. So meaning that this is the time for us to call for accountability, not just from the federal government, but from the state as well as the local governments.
This is more than revenue tracking, and I'm very happy that I'm seeing the headline there saying the government is under fire, because what that tells me is that Nigerians are now auditing the federal government in real time.
That's right.
But you raised a very important issue, Ibrahim. You said that if you ask a Nigerian about a budget, they say, oh, we're not getting what we need, because that is not how citizens don't have the same metric for development that the government does. The government is privy to figures and facts and numbers and statistics. The average man feels it in his pocket, on his plate, in his bed, in his home. So the metrics are very, very different. And the moment the metrics change and we start to feel it microeconomically, things will get better. But we must audit the government as often as we can.
Absolutely, absolutely. Nigerian Tribune, Ria, you see how I acquired my property actually, Malami saying ask courts to set aside interim forfeiture order. And the same thing with the Blueprint newspaper saying how I acquired 212.8 billion naira seized assets with 15 billion naira legitimate earnings, Malami. So 57 property were being seized by the court, and then he's asking the court to quash, that interim forfeiture. He's saying that, listen, some of this money, I borrowed about 2 billion naira. Okay, yes, those are the questions. I borrowed about 2 billion naira. I have got 15 billion naira legitimate earnings, and this earnings, gave me about 212.8 billion. That's like 1,300%.
Ibrahim, become a mathematician on this table. But for me,
these are the questions. Yeah.
I'll say when you have you're put in a public office, you should be ready for long-term accountability, and this is what we're seeing.
That's right.
For me, you're saying that these monies are legitimate. Everything is alleged, so I'm not going to speak like, okay, of course he has been found guilty. But you're saying that these monies are your monies. You got them legitimately. What we're asking for now is the evidence. Let's see, because this is a person that you've been scrutinized for even sponsoring terrorism. Former Attorney General, you were the person that you were holding justice in Nigeria, and these kind of big allegations are on you, which doesn't even speak well for us as Nigeria, because the international space is watching us, seeing us, scrutinize a person that is supposed to hold justice, in a country like Nigeria. So I don't have a problem with him saying that, oh, it's my money, it's legitimate money. Anybody can say anything, anybody can make any claim. But at this point, what we're asking for is accountability. If they're really your monies, especially where you borrowed the money from, you would tell us. There are trails to all of these things. So we need to see these things. If not, if allegedly these things, were gotten through fraudulent means, of course they need to be forfeited.
Absolutely.
And that money needs to go around for the normal Nigerians that are really suffering. I think that at the end of the day, this is high time that we hold our leaders accountable. The way we treat this Malami case will determine, how other leaders will behave, will determine, and it will show that, nobody is above the law. If you are in a place of power and you do something that doesn't sit well with the people of Nigeria and doesn't even sit well with God that you serve, you need to...
Especially when you are able to amass that wealth while you're in power. But he said he was able to get some lands and all of that, and he sold some of his property.
Ibrahim, another thing for me quickly is that I worry about when we have people in power, the kind of money they want to accumulate. Like, they want to accumulate money, not even thinking about the next person. And it's worrisome for me because nobody is living this life with your car. Nobody is living this life with your house. So at the end of the day, you are just tainting your image and tainting your legacy.
We see what happens. You wanted to say something?
There are a lot of issues around this thing. I mean, it's easier to make allegations. It's easier for Malami to come up also with explanations.
Excuses, yeah.
I think there's a role for Zakadedeji, the Federal Internal Revenue Service.
That's right.
There's the issue of inheritance tax, if you inherit the property from your father. There's the issue of capital gain tax,
claims, yeah.
whether it was paid or not paid at all. There's also the issue of personal income tax. To what extent, what tax was actually paid on all these assets, if indeed Malami actually claimed that they were gifts or income from one property or the other.
Right.
So there are a lot of issues around this.
Because Mr. Biodun, even if he's saying gift, who gave him the gift?
Mr. Biodun has just given the
buyer,
even if it's a gift.
Mr. Biodun will move to the
It's an
buyer,
income.
the seller, the person that
The one inherited from his father, the property allegedly inherited from his father, he's supposed to pay inheritance tax on it. So there are a lot of issues that we Absolutely.
All right, then it's a huge one for the federal government and also the prosecutors and the court itself. But Mr. Shomi, let me take you to Observer Times. Let's talk politics very quickly. We see the marriage of convenience now between the PDP and the APC. So the Benue PDP submits the operational term, submit to APC ahead of 2027 political alliance. And these are the riders. They said ex-AGF Awan Duaka says deal is partnership to ensure good leadership. And this good leadership in this case is to come up with an alternative candidate that will dislodge Governor Hyacinth earlier. Pact seeks to protect politicians from premature retirement and leadership to decide on consensus governorship candidates for the next year. So we see the SGF, what's his name?
George
Akume, and the leader of Benue State, who is the governor, but who exactly is the de facto, maybe not de jure, but de facto leader of a party? Because the president has said the leader of a party in any state is the governor, because when it comes to deep pockets and all of that, these are the people that are the financiers. It's not PDP. The party leaders are just administrative leaders. The governors are not part of the ESCOs. But how do you explain the rifts, the leadership tussle between the Akume faction and that of the incumbent governor Hyacinth Alia in Benue State, and what is playing out?
Oh, there's no doubt about it. George Akume, a former governor of Benue State, now the secretary to the federal government, has a very towering presence in Benue State.
That's right.
He contributed not in any small measure to the emergence of Father Alea, as the governor of that state. Until today, many people still, defer to him. Now, the problem is this. APC constitution clearly, and even in practice, stated that the sitting governor, is the leader of the...
No, I don't think it's constitutional. It's only political. That's why
it's a political arrangement. Yes.
Not a matter of constitution. It's de facto.
The political arrangement.
The way we agree. But constitutionally, it is the PDP. Why am I saying PDP? It is the party chairman, but who serves as the administrative head. Do you understand?
Yes.
Exactly.
So when you look at the situation, you have the governor
absolutely
as the leader of the party in the state.
Absolutely.
And that has been restated by the national leader, who happens to be the president himself.
Yeah.
Now you have George Akume, who is also a very respected past governor, past leader of the state, with a towering presence, in Benue State. So how do we resolve that? We have to look at other states. How did they resolve this problem? One, the governor is the sitting governor, is the leader of the party in that state. Right. But there must be a recognition of the fact that there are also other leaders. So it has to be a form of collegiate, leadership. If you look at Lagos, for instance, they have what they call Governor's Advisory Council. Absolutely. So it's something like that that has to be, worked out so that the governor, whoever is the sitting governor, can effectively work with other stakeholders who are also leaders of the party.
All right, then. I think we take this as the last one because we have just about less than a minute to go. This Nigeria is saying Yelwata Massacre. Talk about this Nigeria. Court remands suspected terrorists. Defendants plead not guilty to 57-count amended charge bordering on alleged terrorism offences. So many lives were lost. I think more than 150 of them. And we have about 9 of them who are facing, trial. But one thing is the prosecuting counsel is saying they should please allow them, asking for oral bail. But the judge said no, they have to be remanded. And the case will be heard, I think, towards the end of February or so.
How brazen to ask for bail after inflicting bloodshed on an entire community. It's a 57-count charge being brought against them, and what that tells me is that the government is actively trying to build a comprehensive case against these people because we want them put away for a very long time.
That's right.
But with high-profile terrorism trials, they often sit at a very sensitive intersection. On one hand, we have the public demand for punishment. We want these people dead if possible. We want them harmed and locked away. On the other hand, the Constitution requires that there is a free and fair trial. They don't want to prosecute or try anybody based on pressure. They want evidence. And so let us be patient with the government as they build this case. Absolutely. I even heard that these young men could barely even communicate. They had to have translators and interpreters in court. What does that tell you about it's a lot.
It's a lot, absolutely. A whole lot. And really a mouthful. But then, unfortunately, we just have to end it here because of our time. Coming up on TVC Breakfast, we'll examine the IMF's forecast on Nigeria's growing share of the global economy and what it means for citizens and businesses. We'll be right back. Just stay with us.